So, end of summer carp fishing is probably my favourite time of year. It's when they finally become a little bit easier to catch, simply because they're fattening up and they want to have a chew before the winter comes. So it's about being positive this time of year. And I'm going to talk to you today about one of my favourite ways of fishing, definitely for this time of year, probably because of the venues I go to at this time of year. I mean, August, September is very much my carp fishing time, with Golden Reel finals, Maven Match This finals at venues like Hayfield, Larford, UK Champs at Barston. Very much ledgering, carpy type venues where quite often those methods are needed to catch as many fish as we possibly can. So that's what we're going to do today. Yeah, I'm going to talk about my little things that make a difference when I'm ledgering for carp. Yeah, we're here today, Old Hough Fishery on Big Macs. A standard sort of open water lake. Yeah, we've got an island, we're not going to fish an island, we're just treating it nice open water, how I'd target carp and a general, say, with those venues, what I'm talking about, Larford, Hayfield, Barston. A nice 30-metre carp line is what we're after today. All about feeding 8mm. Yeah, 8mm are the base mix for making fish feed, for getting them in your peg with loads of noise, loads of attraction. They're a brilliant, brilliant bait at this time of year when they want carp to come into your peg. But they can be a pain for getting fish on the hook. I mean, they're great for getting fish into your peg, but for actually singling out fish once they're there, they can be a very tricky bait, because you're feeding such a big area, you're feeding so many pellets in the first place to actually get the fish present. There's just so many options for fish to feed. So the chances of fishing an 8mm among 8mm out in the middle of the lake, yes, it can produce lots of fish on the day if there's enough competition, but more times than not, again, at those venues I'm talking about, you need something to get the fish's attention. That's the biggest thing. I mean, the 8mm need to be included to get fish into your peg in the first place, but there's so many little things that you can fish over the top of it to make sure you get bites. And I want to talk about doing the right things at the right time, because it's no good just employing all your tricks straight away. None of them are working. You need to think of why things are working at what points during your session, which I'll elaborate a little bit more on as we go. So we're going to get straight into it. We're not going to mess about whatsoever today. And as I say, it's all about feeding 8mm. Yeah, really, really simple. I've got my spot out there and I'm just feeding sort of 10 8mm, probably twice every cast. And I'm just feeding it nice at what, 25, 30 metres, just really, really comfy, so I can keep everything accurate. That's the first tip, is not trying to go too far. And then the second thing I'm going to focus on is how I'm going to present my bait over the top of that. Like I said, the last thing I want to do is chuck an 8mm pellet over 3,000 8mm pellets. Yeah, if I demonstrate something on my side tray, what I'm after, or what is going to happen out there, just with a handful. So there's one handful of pellets that is what? 40 pellets? 40 to 50 pellets. So that's like 4 or 5 feeds is all I'm going to do. And if I put them, I'd never feed them this accurate, but I'm going to spread them on my side tray. So if I dot them all about on my side tray, if I was flipping a genius, I could feed that tight at that length. I can't. It's going to be on 4 times the size of that minimum. But if you can imagine those pellets now, what is the chance, if I chuck my pellet in, it's a match a hatch, same pellet, if I chuck my pellet in there now, what's the chance of mine getting picked out? Very, 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 very slim, isn't it? I mean, there's nothing to make the fish go to that one. If anything, the fish aren't gonna go to that one because it looks a little bit different to the others, because it's got a big hook on it. So the chance of getting picked up is, well, it's 50 to 1, 50, 60 to 1, depending on how many pellets are on the bottom. Not for me. Yeah, it just makes it too hard, too slow, and very, very inefficient to get bites. The last thing that we want when we're doing this. So instead, what I want to be doing is putting something in the middle of those pellets that stands out. Yeah, we've seen it loads and loads on the massive amount of underwater videos that are out there these days, and the importance of a focal point, are we going to call it? Standout bait, whatever. Just choosing a bait that those fish want to pick out of the many. I mean, they want to be there anyway to feed. They're naturally feeding. Yeah, we've done the, I'm going to say easy bit by feeding the bait to get them into the peg. The next tricky bit is to get as many as possible to pick up that hook bait, or focus on my hook bait, get as many opportunities as I possibly can of them picking it out among the many to make sure I catch more than anyone else, more than the bloke next to me that wants to just chuck that 8mm pellet among the 8mm pellets. Definitely not what we want. So the way I want to break it down, let's just feed a few more pellets out there, keep them happy. So 2 lots of sort of 8 or 10 seems about right at the minute. I'm not pushing it too much. I don't want too much bait in there. I'm just going to feed a couple more because then I'm going to waffle for a bit. There's a few out there. think it might be a waggler day, but we don't want to do that today. There's two different ways that I want to go over it. Yeah, I want to either have a standout hook bait on a bomb, or I want to have a bigger pile of bait over the top of it, be it a method feeder, a flat method feeder, open alloy feeder, a PVA bag, whatever. That's the other option, with a bigger pile of bait. And what I like to do in my sessions is start off with the bigger, more vivid bait. So I'd want to start off on a method feeder or a hybrid feeder or whatever over the top of it, because it's that bigger volume of bait. It's just an even bigger eye-catching area that's likely to catch me sort of anything as well. I think it's more appealing using micro pellets, or in today's case 4mm pellets on a feeder. It's a little less selective than maybe just a single hook bait that'll probably just catch me carp. Like with having some little bitty softer bait sort of thing in my peg as well, it might mean that I might catch some big skimmers, I might catch some smaller carp, some F1s, just before that peg really starts rocking. I think by starting off on a feeder, you know, I mean, a great big area of bait, I mean, a good pile of bait if you can imagine, among that many that were on there, it's a bigger thing for them to focus on to begin with. I mean, a bit more appealing to them and great. But what I don't want is them to take over my peg. I don't want a peg full of micro pellets or little bitty 4mm pellets, because definitely in today's case, it's got a lot of little fish in. I don't want them taking my peg over. I want the fish to be focused on the 8mm eating them. So all I'm doing is trying to do something to make sure mine gets picked out among the 8mm. So we're going to start off, as I said, on a feeder. And I'm going to get some standout hook baits. I've got them ready to go. And I'm going to start the session off with a nice little open alloy feeder over the top of it. As I say, with 4mm. Yeah, I've gone with 4mm because of the amount of little diddy fish in here. I don't want a peg full of skimmers. So hopefully 4s are the closest I can get. Potentially, maybe 6s even, who knows? But 4s for me, they're a nice one that still binds on my feeder, still breaks down and gives a volume of bait. But what I'm going to do is put a match the hatch hook bait on this to begin with, because that's what they are. They're eating what I'm feeding, so I'm happy with that. So as long as I've got an 8mm on within the 4mm, something's hopefully going to be focused in on the pile. The pile of loose feed is going to be my focus point in this case, as opposed to my hook bait. So my hook bait can come into it next, possibly once I've caught a couple, or I feel that they're not picking it out. Then the next step could be to almost double bubble it, in that I've got my pile of bait and maybe a standout hook bait as well. So it's just seeing what's right. And of course, standout hook baits are great as long as they want to pick them up. Yeah, we have to work out whether the right colour, the right type of hook bait we're using is actually getting picked up. If they're avoiding it, it makes it even worse. So let me just show you that. In fact, I've got my 4mm already on. I'll go through that again in a minute, loading it. But really nice. My hook bait's just underneath there. You can just see it underneath. Really, really simple form of presentation, and they're going to break up really, really quick. All I've done with them is soften them for like 2 minutes, drain them off, instantly good to go. The sticky pellets are really, really easy to use. You've not got to put too much prep time into them to get them right. So I'm going to wang this over my bait. Nice, not clipped up or nothing, because these fish are very, very, very angry. I've actually just gone just past it that time. There we go. Oh, I thought one had it on the settle then. That pulled me line after. I think I went over the back of one then. But there's definitely a few fish out there. Just feed them again before we go out. So I want to keep the fish happy. I want them on the bottom. So I'm feeding really positively with these pellets. I don't want to feed just 1 or 2. If I do that, then all the pellets are going to be intercepted off the bottom. I want a volume of pellets getting to the bottom. Same again, I can go through this now. Nice layer of 4mm. Just tap them in nice. They're very, very sticky as it is. Just make sure all the gaps are covered in that. Pellet on the top. Make sure my hook's facing upwards. I'm a big advocate of that when it comes to fishing any feeders. Yeah, I want my big daft hook facing upwards, so as soon as the fish takes it in, it's technically going to go into the bottom lip, and I'll just lightly cover it with them 4mm. It's not like a conventional method feeder that you want it to break down lovely. It's big pellets, so you want them just dripping off, and you want your hook bait to be fishing as quickly as possible, so it's not completely encased. Like in this case, that's my hook bait there. So it's still sticking out, it's still visible, it can be immediately eaten. And so I don't need to go too sticky with these as well, because how shallow my peg is, because I'm only chucking it to 3 foot. I know that it's going to get to the bottom and be fishing very, very quickly. That in, that didn't go in very nice, but it'll do. It'll do, it'll go under that. So I'm just going to sink that line nice. That was actually on the near side of me bait, that one. Just going to tighten up to him. I'm not going to tighten up too much because it's ridiculous the amount of flipping liners are there. So that one's just done me. 100% that fish has just done me. So I'm going to feed again, I'm going to crank it in, I'm going to chuck it again. Just need to let the chaos calm down a bit. So whether it's done me on me bait, I don't know, but it's 100% moved me feeder, that one. Yeah, so another cast quick, because they definitely come to it really quickly. So let's not muck about with getting that feeder back in. As soon as anything's been moved, I want to be chucking that again. So I've gone with a fairly heavy feeder. I've gone with a 32 grammer in the medium size. So it's quite dense. It's going to stay there pretty well. But if these fish keep giving me too many liners, because of the size of the fish, I'll be more than happy to swap to a bigger feeder. So I'm happy that there's fish in my peg now, the fizzing. I mean, it's probably took about 15, 20 feeds to actually get some fizzing going on that I know there's fish on the bottom eating my bait. I mean, a very, very normal thing when feeding 8mm is to have them fizz in, fish all over the place, but be really, really difficult to catch. And because of that, or what I think's going on in that case rather, is that there's loads of fish eating your 8mm, they're grubbing all over the place on the bottom, but they cannot see your bait. Yeah, if you imagine what's going on, it's like liquid mud down there when they root all that silt up. Just tighten this up nearly. I can feel line as I'm tightening this up. There's a lot of fish in that peg. Yeah, what's happening is they're kicking all the silt up, all the sediment up, they're making such a mess on the bottom that it makes it even harder for them to find your hook bait. So if you've only got a tiny thing, I mean a 8mm pellet, a 6mm pellet, whatever, on the hook, they're not going to find it. It's simply not going to happen because it's a needle in a haystack. So by having these standout hook baits, bigger volumes of bait condensed in an area, it is absolutely massive. It's imperative just to get a bite. I mean, it's often so easy to get them feeding, like the fizzing going on, but getting the bites is often the tricky bit, like I said when we first started. So I'm just going to feed once more over the top of that. I don't want to feed too much once it's in. Yeah, I want to feed my bait twice before I go in, make a big racket, get some bait on the bottom, give myself a marker to chuck over, and then sit and wait. Yeah, I don't want to be chucking non-stop. I don't want to be feeding non-stop over the top of it, because it'll just make the fish come all over the place. And it gives them more opportunities to feed, bait all over the place, harder for them to find my little pile. So every single cast you have, you need to have the mentality that the whole cast, in the 2 feeds before it, 3 feeds before it, whatever else, plus your bait over the top, is one trap. Yeah, it's one off trap. You're setting your trap, you're putting your bait in, you're attracting them with the noise, you're putting your pile, your condensed area over the top. That's better. And then hopefully quite quickly one's going to find it, which is so important. Yeah, if I keep on feeding, all you're doing is increasing the area of that trap. Yeah, I don't want that happening. I want them to mop up all my pellets, find my bait, get a bite just like we have, and then we are away and we are flying then. And we've got one. I don't know what it is. Maybe a carpy. There's some of the biggest F1s in the world in this lake. It could quite easily be one of them, but I don't think it is. I think we've got a little carp, but the perfect type of fish that I'm targeting, them sort of 4 to 6 pound carp, the exact stamp of fish that I'm fishing for in so many places at this time of year, that again can be so tricky to catch when you're feeding lots of bait over flat silty bottoms. So everything's nice and positive. We've got proper robust kit on. Is he a carpy? Yes, he's a carpy. Yeah, proper robust kit on. I've got dead positive 10 pound main line, 020 hook length, great big hook on. There's no chance of losing them once they fall for the trap. Well, very, I'm going to lose the next one now I've said that, but how am I going to do this? This is an error, not putting waterproof pants on at this point. I'm going to get very wet, aren't I? It's a little bit smaller than I thought, but still lovely. Right, let me hold him still. He's bang on in bottom lip, exactly where we want him to be. And yes, a beautiful example of a small-ish carp that we're trying to catch doing this. These are the bread and butter fish that we're trying to catch. So hopefully they get a little bit bigger later on. But for now, that is perfect. And probably the slightly smaller stamp is what I'm going to expect to catch on the method feeder as well. So I'm going to do it once more really quickly. As I say, set me trap, catch one on this, and then we're going to move over to the bomb. Everything's speeding up a little bit quicker than normal today. And I'll talk about why I won't want to go on a bomb immediately. But yeah, hopefully there's another fish to be caught. Same again, pick the little ones out. Why I like the little ones, I don't know. I feel that the smaller 8mm probably hinder your hook a little bit less than the bigger 8mm. And I'm not too fussed on a Standout hook bait because I've got my pellets around it, because it's on a feeder. They've already got the Standouty bit. So I'm going to chuck him in. Same again, bait in, hook sticking up like a big gaff. Just what we want for that last one, right in the middle of the bottom lip. That ain't going anywhere. And then just in case it, yeah, same again, pellets there, it's visible, it's fishing. I dread to think, 5-10 seconds into being into my peg, if not immediately, it is fishing. It might not even be on my feeder, it might be just to the side of it immediately, but I don't mind as long as it's in the area. So really quick, same again, trap setting like I was on about, 2 lots of 10, make sure you get them good. Yeah, beautiful. So I'm probably feeding on a pool table sort of thing. What am I feeding there? What are you going to give me, Jakey? 3 metres square? Sort of about that. So it's a big old area when you look at what 3 metres square is. But if there's 15 carp feeding in that, it's all good. So I'll make sure he's all nice. See where we went. Get feeder right over the top. Beautiful. It's really shallow there. My feeder's on the bottom immediately. Just take your time, sink line. So what I'll do, if there's too many fish into in my peg, I'll fish a slack line. Whereas if nothing's happening, I'll fish a tighter line just so I can sort of see what's going on. But today, there's 30 billion fish in my peg, so a slacker line is definitely the way to go, I think. So this line's great as well, isn't it? It's really heavy, so it gets down a bit. So we're fishing on a bit of a plateau out there. If I tightened up too much, my line would be direct over the top of the fish. I want it to sit on the bottom a little bit more. The same again, don't feed. Yeah, there's no need to feed if the fish are present. If you think there's enough fish present, because you're seeing liners, you're seeing fizzers, you're seeing whatever, then there is no need to introduce any more 8mm. Yeah, it's not like waggler fishing where you're trying to keep them up and competing all the time. Yeah, I want the fish to be on the bottom grubbing for my trap I've just set. So you've got to be nice, patient, see what goes on. The only time I think about refeeding is if I felt like I got a spell of indications for sort of like 3 or 4 minutes, the fizzing stopped. I mean, if something occurred where I think these fish just left my peg, then I might feed again. But if I'm completely honest, what I'm more likely to do is crank it in, feed again, reset my trap, chuck back over the top of it. That's going to be far better than pinging pellets all over the place and spreading my trap and just giving myself less chances that aren't. He's on, isn't he? He's on. He's on. He's a different fish, though. This is what I was on about to start with. The little fish. Yeah, which is why I do not want to happen in my peg. Even though I've got an absolute boatload of carp out there, I'm cranking in a 6-ounce skimmer, which is great to begin with. I don't mind it to start my session. 10-ounce skimmer. But that is because of the versatility, I'm going to say, of the 4mm. Yeah, if I were to have just fished double 8mm pellet, whatever else, I wouldn't have caught that. But because I've got my squidgy baits on to begin with, same again, doesn't get any better. Literally 10 out of 10, bottom lip, he's job done. Let me get rid of him. Obviously not what we want to catch, but early in the session, if the carp weren't really feeding, I'm more than happy to put 10 of them in my net before things start happening. But today they are happening, so I'm going to change immediately. And what we're going to do is feed a couple of times while I pick my rod up. And I'm going to swap over to a bomb. Obviously it's not something I'd do now. If I was fishing a match now, I'd be more than happy plugging away on a method because the fish are finding it within 5 minutes from getting a bite. I can't ask for any more than that. That's absolutely emptying it as far as I'm concerned. But for today, so I've still got bait in that. That's how quick we got a bite. And I'm always fishing over bait. I actually like having a few pellets left in my feeder. Let's get rid of him and swap to the bomb. Plain, nice, easy lead setup. Yeah, I've got one of our finesse bombs on to start. For a venue like this, when I do chuck a bomb over the top, I like the finesse element more than the heavy bolt rig element. I find it gets a few more bites as long as I fish it in the right way. The bolt rig, like with a big heavy lead, 30 gram plus, I tend to use that when it's a bit wild, at a bigger venue, when there is a ripple on, when the fish aren't going to be upset by that big plop going in. Definitely I find a slightly smaller lead, in today's case just a 10 grammer, still has enough of a bolt effect as long as I tighten up to it and as long as I've got a short hook length, but doesn't upset them too much when it goes in. So back on the same subject is hooking the bait, or what I'm going to put on the bait, on the hook, to make them fish pick it out, because there's still 3 million pellets out there on the bottom. So the worst thing I could do is put an 8mm on the hook. I mean, don't get me wrong, yes, I could get a bite instantly on it if I'm lucky, but once it's settled and playing on the bottom, it's just needle and haystack. It's what I showed you on my bait tray. Very unlikely. So I need to go with Standout hook baits. Yeah, I can choose big visual ones, I can choose smelly ones, you can choose whatever. The amount of options there are pretty much endless. You can pick whatever you want, but you want to be picking things that stand out and just do the job in the right way. So what I've got, my first go-to is my 10mm sinkers, or this has actually got a bit of all sorts in, but there's quite a few 10mm in here that have been prepped. Jake actually did these for me a long time ago, almost back when I joined Sonubaits. So nearly 2 years they've been in a tub, or nearly 3 years they've been in a tub, and they're festering away. They've got some banoffee liquid on them, which makes them lovely and soft, lovely and attractive. So they've got the smell element as the first thing to make them stand out. I mean, I've got one bait that might get the fish's attention because of the smell, but then also, if I just grab my bandit, I need a bandit for these because they're a bit slippery. Also, it's the standout of the colour, so I'm going to pick a great big, it's not a 10mm one, this is an 8mm one, or a bit of all sorts in this tub, but by picking an 8mm, flipping useless, an 8mm wafter out, or sinker rather, hopefully that they're going to find that really quick. I never use banders, I feel all like weird using it, but for these I ain't got any choice. What I would have, if I was just going to fish wafters, I'd probably rather have a spike, it presents it a lot better, but by having a band it gives me a more versatile hook length that I can put anything on. So really simple, nice pink, 8mm wafter on, or 8mm sinker, sorry, on that one. And a very sharp hook that keeps spiking me. Same again, big hook, big 14 gaff that's going to stay there. And I'm going to feed twice again, trap set again. 2 lots of 10, look at them fish, absolutely crawling over that they are. And we're going to see if this gets picked out. So it might be right, it might be the worst thing in the world, you might avoid it completely because it's so different. But I always like going big and blatant and obvious to start with, because then I can come back from that really easy. It's sort of your confidence thing. We've all seen it on them underwater ones. Pink seems to be massive for them picking it out quickly when it's on the bottom. So by chucking that out, I'm going to tighten up quite tight to that because I've got quite a light bomb on. So I've really tightened up. It's not like a feeder where I'm worried about it getting moved. Yeah, this, I'm expecting liners to happen, but I'm always fishing still, even if my lead gets bashed about a little bit. But yeah, so start off on that pink one, see if anything gets picked out on that. Next, I might change colour. So I've got loads of options. I can go with a big, plain, what we're going to call him, a milky, orangey one. I can put a yellow one on, great, when it turns to wafters. Or I can go to my pellets, and I can even fish double 8mm. Yeah, double 8mm of the same thing of what we're feeding is probably my favourite bait. It's probably the bait that catches more fish than anything, just by having 2 together. It's the most subtle way of creating a standout hook bait, I'm going to say. And it's the same as what you're feeding, just a bit of a tighter area sort of thing that they might pick out of. So get my pellets ready, I'm not going to feed them yet. Or I can swap to 8mm, double 8mm, double 6mm. Let's say the options are flipping endless. You can literally swap between the baits all the time until you find the right one that gets picked out really quickly. Like already here, I'm not feeling this. Yeah, it just feels different to the method feeder how it was, and that's due to not a million fish being on the bottom. Yeah, there's not a huge amount of competition yet because I'm not building the peg up, we're rushing it because we're doing a film. So the importance of having that really big standout bait like a method feeder is definitely shown now. It's just a completely different cast in it. Like, despite there being 1 or 2 out there, like, actually ridiculous, nothing's picking my bait up. So I'll give it this cast, If this doesn't go in the next 2 or 3 minutes, I'd be more than happy to whiz it in, swap my hookbait completely, go in with something else on the next cast, which is what I'll do. And really, really quickly, within 5 or 10 minutes, they'll tell you what's right. We've done it in so many situations. More than anything, the biggest thing it came to light for me was in Matches Final 2019, when swapping from 8mm to a double pro expanders. Double expander on the hook was ridiculous at Ayfield. I mean, they're quite fragile and really hard to get right, particularly when you're chucking them in 30 metres in 12 foot of water. They're a real, you've got to get them perfect and soften them up in the right way for that. But it wasn't just about that bait being the perfect thing. It was the standout bait among your baits that is the huge thing. Like, this hasn't moved. Literally, I can't believe this literally has not moved, this pink one, when it's gone in. So definitely for here, pink ain't the one for me. Like, really quickly, I'm happy with that they're not picking it out. And there's a few out there, like actually solid out there. So I'm just going to raft in a few more pellets. Going to give them a big handful. I'm going to whiz them in quick. And I'm going to put a different hook bait on already. And this time, what are we going to go with? Should I go with double pellet, or should I go with double red ones? Should I go with a red pellet maybe? So it might just be that boilies ain't the one on this lake. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put double 8mm pellet on. So what we're going to do is pick 2 nice ones that aren't too weird, and you can get 2 really easy in the bands just by putting the first one in, nice and simple. Getting the second one, so try and pick the ones with a little bit of a flat edge on. All you do, stretch your band. Let me get this right. Stretch my band massively. Get it in under the top of it. And our matrix bands are phenomenal in that with one band you can get 2 pellets on. Really, really, really easy. Same again, nice big standout hook bait, a little bit more subtle than the others, but that's going to be the next thing that we have a go at. I'm going to feed again just before we go out. So the best thing about these pellets I'm feeding today, it's nice here, there's no fishery pellets, you can use what you want. And with these 8mm ones, and indeed the 4mm and 6mm as well, because they've been treated already with a little bit of, just going to draw that back a tiny bit. Been treated already with a tiny little bit of goodness, some oil and stuff, they all sink. I mean, I'm a big, big advocate of that. When I want my carp on the bottom, I want my pellets sinking like bricks. I mean, the heavier the better, getting them straight down. I can feel that perch knocking on the end of my tiff again. I like it when they do that. But yeah, I want pellets that sink, that go straight down, they're as attractive as possible, or probably attractive, bit more attractive than most pellets because they've got a little bit of oily scent on them. But like I say, for me, the biggest thing is making sure they sink. I want everything straight down and not keeping the fish up in the water, because these are wanting to be up in the water as it is. So back in, keep a quick check on my clock, see what's going on. I'm going to give him sort of 5 minutes at the most, see if this gets towed in, and you will definitely find your hook bait. Yeah, maybe not this early in the session, so we should be sitting on a method feeder now. You see the difference today and how quick I was getting bites on a method. But when we've got them fish really feeding, really grubbing there later on, maybe there's getting a few too many skimmers in my peg, maybe then it's time to swap over to this, find the hook bait that's standing out on the day. And once we find that, it's normally all over. We can catch bigger fish far more selectively than we can with the method feeder, which is the ultimate thing that we're trying to find by the end of the day. So I'm going to sit back, I'm going to keep skipping through my hook baits without getting stung by this wasp, and hopefully we're going to find out what is right on the day today. Right, so it has been, I reckon we've had 30 minutes on this, on a bomb, going through various hook baits. I've fished pink wafter, I've had a quick go on an orange sinker, I've had double pellet, none of them got a bite on. Yeah, I tried red pellet, I did eventually catch one on a red pellet, and I caught one on double 6mm pellet. But it's really obvious they're not picking my bait up quick. Yeah, I wanted to have a play today to try and find a bait that they were feeding really, really quickly on, they were homing in on. On a bomb, it's not happening. Like literally not happening, which is so often the case on many, many a day. Something often stands out. And it just shows if you went to set up a few options, set up a potential method feeder over the top or whatever else, you lose out on so many fish. So what I want to end on really quick is cranking this in my bomb. So I probably have 35 minutes on that now. I've even tried last cast and matched the hatchet to see if they were picking it out. Definitely didn't get a bite on that because it was needle in haystack. So swapping back to this, that we've not had a go on since I came off it to go on the bomb. It'd be really interesting to see how quickly it is, because I do think that is a day when a method feeder is vital just for that great big lump of bait in the middle of it all, for them just to stand out, pick it out, and me get a bite quicker off whatever's in the peg. So same again, back to the 4mm stickies. Actually really, really do like these for me big carpy fishing. Just so different in it from the norm of everyone chucking micro pellets on. The fish must get sick of it. I mean, if I were to fish a pole, that is what I do as well, is cup some 4mm in, a nice accurate pile with a 6 or 8mm pellet on. It's exactly what I do if I were pole fishing. So make sure that's on nice. Same again, get me trap set. I should have fed that before I did this. Let me just stick him there. Don't put him in the water. 2 lots of 10. A nice little bit to the left. Yeah, happy with that. And then look at that fin sticking out then for them pellets. So there's clearly plenty of fish there. Not getting bites on a bomb is mental. Like really, really has surprised me. You'd have thought you could catch on anything today. There's that many fish feeding. In all honesty, I think the waggler would have been the one, but we're not here to do that. So I'm just going to sink this method feeder. I'm going to tighten up a lot less than what I was doing on the bomb, because I'm getting so many liners and I don't want them to do me and move me feeder. So just tighten up a little bit on that, and hopefully if I'm nice and patient, that'll get towed in quite quick. Say it's about having that versatility and being able to swap about, having your options open. If you'd have come here today and just fished a bomb and pellet, you literally wouldn't catch anything. You'd have such a struggle to get bites, because they don't want to be on the bottom, firstly, but also because of the silt, because of the bubbles, because of the chaos being caused, and so many options. If you didn't have as many options open to yourself as possible, you could easily go home catching the utter minimum from your peg that you should be catching, instead of ringing the changes, working out what's best, just to get them to focus in on that hook bait, to get you a few more bites. And yeah, with a bit of luck, you just go home catching as many as you possibly could, which is all it is ever about. So I'm going to sit here 10 more minutes, hopefully get towed in on this method feeder, and then job is a good one. So that for me answers flipping everything. I just had to have another quick cast because the first one got pulled off by a big liner. But this has been in 2 minutes, if that, the second chuck. Like ridiculous. Today, the method feeder over the top, or the open alloy feeder in this case, that big pile of attraction, more pellets, little squishy pellets if anything, maybe they want something a bit softer. The difference is ridiculous. Like literally you will catch 70% more fish choosing the right thing. And again, it's on the day though. Yeah, I'm not saying do this is the only way to fish. It's definitely not. On a days a bomb can far outscore it when you want to be a bit cleverer. Cleverer, as Andy would say. But for this one, today's session, by a million mile, feeder over the top of all the 8mm that are vital. I definitely think it's vital to get that volume of bait out there with the attraction of 8mm. I mean, it really is paying a difference today getting fish into my peg. I couldn't just throw a feeder. It definitely wouldn't be attractive enough. But using these 8mm as your attraction, as your base, and then throwing something over the top to get their attention or to home them in on a thing, for me at this time of year is pretty much the ultimate way of fishing or ledgering on the bottom for big wobbly carp. So I'm going to unhook this one, get him back, and hopefully catch a few more before we have to go home, because for me this is pretty much as good as it gets. So all good. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, click on that subscribe button, because myself and all the Sonubaits anglers are always out filming new content with Jakey. There's loads and loads of videos on the Sonubaits YouTube channel. So click that like button, click the little bell as well, so that'll let you know when the videos come live. And thank you very much for watching.